Shalom and welcome to our new moon celebration. Praise Yahweh for all of those who were able to make it out tonight physically. When we deal with these new moons, when it's a busy week, we find out how much fortitude we have in us sometimes, but this is really nothing when it comes down to us keeping our holy days and all of the things that we end up doing back to back to back, which really made me want to go into some things about having a zeal for Yahweh's house, because anybody can do things when it's really easy to do and when it's fun. When it's a party, everybody show up. When it's something that's no work to be done, it's real easy to be in those things. It's the same as being in a relationship. When everything is good, it's real easy to be in a relationship. What happens after you go past that point. This is why some people are constantly in a new relationship, because new relationship is always easy because everybody is still at the interviewing stage. But once you get past that, what happens then. So there's a lot that has to be done to restore the children of Israel back to our rightful place. So there has to be those that are going to have a zeal for his house. We're going to begin tonight in Luke chapter 9. Luke chapter 9, and we're going to read verses 51 through 62.
Luke chapter 9 and verse 51. And it came to pass, when the time was come that he should be received up, he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem, and sent messengers before his face. And they went, and entered into a village of the Samaritans, to make ready for him. And they did not receive him, because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem.
Because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. Now it's going to be something interesting that takes place. It's one of those things where you read where he says, I have sheep that are not of this fold, and automatically, the disciples ended up saying, hey, we saw people casting out demons, and they were not with us. Should we forbid them from being able to do those things? And it comes down that we have to understand that no matter where we are a branch of Yahshua's body. We are a branch of that house. You are not the whole house. We are not the whole house. We are a part of that house. And every part of the body has to perform its necessary function, or the whole body suffers. Go ahead.
Verse 54. And when his disciples Yaakov and Johanan saw this, they said, Adonai, will you that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them?
Right. So now they're going to try to look at the look on his face. Now they want to set people on fire because he not going in that direction. Go ahead.
Even as Elias did. But he turned and rebuked them and said, you know not what manner of spirit you are of.
You know not what manner of spirit you are of. Go ahead.
For the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them.
Now, there's a certain thing that's zeal, and then there's a point where that zeal turns around and causes some issues because your zeal is misplaced. Go ahead.
And they went to another village. And it came to pass that, as they went in the way, a certain man said unto him, Adonai, I will follow you wheresoever you goeth. And Yahshua said unto him, Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has not where to lay his head.
And that right there causes some confusion with people, because how is it that he has power over all of these things, but yet he's not rich? Go ahead.
And he said unto another, Follow me. But he said, Adonai, suffer me first to go and bury my father.
Mm-hmm.
Yahshua said unto him, let the dead bury their dead. But go you and preach the kingdom of Elohim.
Right. I said earlier, I think on the Sabbath day, when you start saying these things, it says, if you love me, keep my sayings. Once you start saying these things in red, see how many horrible accusations you're going to have said against you. Because although people say they have love for Yahweh, Elohim, when it comes down to it, when something is said and they don't know how to keep his sayings because they don't know what he said. So when it comes down to it, you start saying these things and they have a great indignation against you because they don't recognize that the words belong to him. Let the dead go bury their dead, but you go and preach the kingdom of Elohim. So when it comes down to those who are going to lead the way, they can't have every other thing comes before Yahweh. There ain't a whole lot of things I can say, well, you know, man, I had to go do such and such, so, you know, I ain't going to do that. I can't do that. The ones in the front cannot possibly let other things. So when he says, follow me, he said, let me first go and bury my father. Hey, man, you have already set the Mashiach back and put other things in front of it. So people have to understand that everybody is not set to be those ones that stand in the front or to take that lead, because they're not ready to set their personal agenda aside for it. There's a reason why it says those who have forsaken houses and wives and children. Why would they have to do that? Because they're not going to let anything else come before the job that they have to do. And everybody not going to do that. Go ahead.
You know, even with the statement that he said, foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. So you mean he wasn't already booking a Holiday Inn before he got where he was going?
Oh, man. He figured it out when he got there. And see, that's part of that thing of allowing the Spirit to direct you, yet you got his own followers looking at his face and trying to read his face, and now they want to set a whole village on fire because they were supposed to go that way. He set his face the other way. This time, man, let's burn them up, man. Let's set them on fire. And you have to consider that thing about Gehazi. He told, when he sent Gehazi on the mission, he said, don't speak to nobody. Mm-hmm. What would we do if somebody don't speak to us and they got something else going on? Let's go to John chapter 2. John chapter 2, and we're going to read verses 13 through 17.
Verse 13. And the Yehudis' Passover was at hand, and Yahshua went up to Jerusalem, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves, and the changers of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables.
All right, so he going off. But here's the issue. Why is he having to do it? It was other people that knew what the rules were other than him. And if you talk about something about authority, truthfully speaking, he didn't have any. There were scribes and Pharisees in charge of that house, but they were hypocrites, but they didn't deal with those things. Matter of fact, they're the ones making the money for most of it. So he's automatically going to tick off the authority when he does this. But the same rules that he is able to read, they were able to read too. So they know that, all of these things ain't supposed to be for sale in his house. Go ahead.
And said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, make not my father's house an house of merchandise. And his disciples remembered that it was written, The zeal of your house has eaten me up.
The zeal of your house have eaten me up. So because of the zeal that he had for Yahweh's house, he didn't want to see the house defiled. We got a dress code. Everybody know what the dress code is. And I understand that, a lot of times, people don't want to overstep their boundaries. But when you see things that don't go according to that, then if you don't want to deal with it yourself, you come and say something and let somebody else deal with it. And we know we got a dress code. There ain't no way possible we should be around here seeing somebody belly meat. I see it, I'm going to throw you out of here. Let's go to Psalms chapter 69. Psalm 69, let's read verses 1 through 9. See, there's a certain part, when you get in this book, it was the zeal of Yahweh's house that led them people to do some things. And it wasn't always some pleasing things. Don't think that everything that Yahweh leads you to do is going to be nice and everybody's going to like what that is that you do. You think people like when Yahshua turned over these tables? You think they like when he made a cord? Understand, when he says he made a cord, then he's swinging it and he whipping them and running them out. This is what he doing. He doing that in the church. Because the stuff that they doing ain't right. So if you walk around smiling at people and you looking at them and they ain't doing right, then you co-sign it. What did we read? If you bid them Godspeed, you have been partaker in their evil deeds. Right. Go ahead, bro.
Where we starting?
Psalm 69, verses 1 through 9.
Okay. Save me, O Elohim, for the waters are come in onto my soul. I sink in deep mire, where there is no standing. I'm come into deep waters, where the floods overflow me. I am weary of my crying, my throat is dried, mine eyes fail while I wait for my Elohim. They that hate me without a cause are more than the hairs of mine head. They that would destroy me, being mine enemies wrongfully, are mighty. Then I restored that which I took not away. O Elohim, you knoweth my foolishness, and my sins are not hid from you. Let not them that wait on you, O Adonai Yahweh of hosts, be ashamed for my sake. Let not those that seek you be confounded for my sake, O Elohim of Israel.
Right. A person who is true to themselves don't even try to pretend like they don't have any issues. Yahweh said Dawid was a man after his own heart. He in no way, shape, fashion, or form said the man was perfect. Neither did the man claim to be perfect. And you read constantly, he mess up, he acknowledge his sin. Not us. Go ahead.
Because for your sake I have borne reproach. Shame has covered my face.
Because for your sake I have borne reproach. See? I had a lot more friends before I started preaching. Before I started teaching this word, I had a whole lot of friends. The reproach I get is because of this word. I used to get invited to parties before they even finished figuring out what day they were going to have the party. Boy, I stopped. Don't nobody want me at their shindig now. Man, that dude going to come with that book, man. We ain't going to be able to do nothing in there. They don't want me in there. Go ahead.
I am become a stranger unto my brethren, and an alien unto my mother's children. For the zeal of your house has eaten me up, and the reproaches of them that reproached you are fallen upon me.
Right. So at the end of the day, what really is the problem is they got an issue with Yahweh. That's why you keep running into issues. Them people got a problem with Yahweh, and the reproach of their hatred, they can't get to Yahweh. So you the easiest thing going. So all that gonna come towards you. And it ain't about you. It's about who you serve. And they got indignation with him. So they're gonna take it out on you. But that's where you get your badges at. Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 13. Nehemiah chapter 13. And we're going to start that at verse 7.
Verse 7. And I came to Jerusalem and understood of the evil that Eliashib did for Tobiah in preparing him a chamber in the courts of the house of Elohim.
Right, that's a holy place. And he had done set up some personal stuff for some people that don't have nothing to do with any of these things. When you talk about them having to go and be punished and be separated, when it was time to go back into that land, now they got to do some of these things. They got to try to set this stuff back up. And it ain't easy to go back and get those things back together. Go ahead.
And it grieved me sore. Therefore I cast forth all the household stuff of Tobiah out of the chamber. Then I commanded, and they cleansed the chambers. And thither brought I again the vessels of the house of Elohim, with the meat offering and the frankincense. And I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given them, for the Levites and the singers that did the work were fled everyone to his field.
The Levites and the singers. See, I don't think people understand how serious the job is of being in the choir. The Levites and the singers that did the work were fled everyone to his field. Go ahead.
Then contended I with the rulers, and said, why is the house of Elohim forsaken?
Right. Somebody has to step up and say, hey, this is the order that we've been given, and nobody gets to bypass the order. Go ahead.
And I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then brought all Yehudah the tithes of the corn and the new wine and the oil onto the treasuries.
Right. Then brought all Yehudah the tithe of the corn and the new wine. These are all the things that take care of the house. This take care of the priest. This take care of all of those things. But because there was no order, nobody brought anything. Go ahead.
And I made treasurers over the treasuries, Shelemiah the priest, and Zadok the scribe, and of the Levites, Pedaiah, and next to them was Hanan, the son of Zaccur, the son of Mattaniah, for they were counted faithful, and their office was to distribute unto their brethren. Remember me, O my Elohim, concerning this, and wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my Elohim, and for the offices thereof.
Remember me, Elohim, concerning these things that I have done to put order in your house. Go ahead.
In those days saw I in Yehudah some treading wine presses on the Shabbat, and bringing in sheaves, and lading asses, as also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Shabbat day.
Right. Now, you're going to hear some of those Sunday preachers try to flip this around when they talk about the disciples walking through and they were hungered and they plucked some of the corn to eat, they're going to then say, well, you see, all of these things right here, we don't have to be worried about anymore. Not understanding when the Messiah ended up saying, don't the priests profane the Sabbath and are held blameless? Why? Because the priests work on the Sabbath and they get paid to work on the Sabbath. So the priest can't rest when everybody else rests. The priest working when everybody else resting. So they didn't understand what he was saying. This is why people say, why you call yourself a priest? What do you think the Messiah was saying? When he asked about why you letting your disciples grab corn and eat on the Sabbath day. He said the priests profane the Sabbath and are held blameless. He was talking and went right over their head. Those are priests. Go ahead.
And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals. Verse 16.
Right, and that ain't had nothing to do with this stuff right here. Now, this stuff right here, bringing in sheaves, laden asses, also wine, grapes, figs, and all manner of burdens, they working. And it had nothing to do with them doing priestly work and then getting hungry. Go ahead.
There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Shabbat unto the children of Yehuda and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Yehuda, and said unto them, what evil thing is this that you do, and profane the Shabbat day? Did not your fathers thus, and did not our Elohim bring all this evil upon us, and upon this city? Yet you bring more wrath upon Yisrael by profaning the Shabbat.
Right. He's looking and said, part of the issues that we have is because we have profaned this Sabbath day. And you going to keep doing it? Go ahead.
And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Shabbat.
Right. Even to this day, you read in the New Testament, they call it Good Friday. As the sun was going down, it was beginning to be the Sabbath. We can find the same thing in the Old Testament. We can find the same thing in the New Testament. So we know when the day changes then, and it ain't midnight. As the sun goes down, that begins the new day. Go ahead.
I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened till after the Shabbat. And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should no burden be brought in on the Shabbat day.
Right. Sometimes you have to orchestrate some things that may not be necessarily a law because it's in Leviticus, Exodus, Numbers, or Deuteronomy. But you have to execute some things to keep Israel from killing themselves. So now, instead of trusting that they're going to do it, shut the gate. That's going to take care of the business. Shut the gate. So everybody can't just roam in here with stuff to sell. Go ahead.
So the merchants and sellers of all kind of ware lodged without Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified against them and said unto them, why lodge you about the wall?
Right. So now the gate closed. Now they still going to sit there and wait by it. Go ahead.
You know, even with the gate closed, that means who inside staying inside and who outside got to stay outside until the Shabbat's done.
Hey, man. These are foreigners now that's coming in. Now it's our people that's dealing with some of it on the one side, but the foreigners hanging on the outside because here's the thing. Once they know we gonna buy, then there's gonna always be somebody to sell. If we stop buying, won't nobody be there. But they know they gonna find out, they gonna find them a huckleberry. So you know them people supposed to be keeping the Sabbath. Yeah, but if we show up with these grapes, they gonna get these grapes. Go ahead.
If you do so again, I will lay hands on you.
Right. See, somebody got to be get to that point that you got to be willing to do some things to restore order. So But first, the man closed the gate. Then he sat people at the gate. That wasn't good enough for some of them. Then he got to go ahead and say, all right, I'm about to cross it. If you come here and stand by this wall on the Sabbath one more time, I'm going to lay hands on you, because you are helping to defile the children of Israel. And when one fall, we all fall. Once we let these things come into the city, now everybody gonna start having an issue. But if you keep those things from even entering into the city, now think about how much hellfire and damnation you have caused not to come upon the children of Israel just by keeping it out of there. See, the zeal of Yahweh's house sometimes make you do things that you might not ordinarily do, or that you might not even want to do. There's no thing that says that, this was a violent man and that he wanted to do all of these things. Where his zeal was about Yahweh's house. See, zeal will make you show up when you're tired. Zeal will make you do some things that you might not be able to even afford to do at a certain point. Zeal will push you past all of those things. Go ahead.
From that time forth came they no more on the Shabbat. And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates, to sanctify the Shabbat day. Remember me, O my Elohim, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of your mercy.
Right. Remember me concerning these things. But you see in verse 21 at the end, from that time forth came they no more on the Shabbat. See, it say resist the devil and he'll flee from you. But you sit there and you keep making a way for him. He keeps showing up. You're going to have to run him off. We have oracles and all these things that we read every week. We're not going to negotiate with people to do what it is they supposed to do. You can either follow the house rules or let the doorknob hit you with a good long split you. We're going to show you the other side of that door. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 6. Second Samuel chapter 6, and we're going to read verses 1 through 15. I told Leil I wasn't going to need that coffee, because once I get started, man, I was tired as all get out when I came. When I walked in the door, kids was like, man, you sleepwalking. Yeah, but let me get started. Wait for a second. That's all right. I know I look like something the cat drug in. I know that. I know it's been a long day. But when you get started, Yahweh help you out. See? But see, if you going to guess that before you get started, I ain't going to be able to do nothing. You ain't never going to do nothing. 2 Samuel chapter 6, start that at verse 1.
Again, David gathered together all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. And David arose and went with all the people that were with him from Baal of Yehudah to bring up from thence the ark of Elohim, whose name is called by the name of Yahweh of hosts, that dwelt between the cherubims.
Right. So he seeks to bring this ark home, because this is the real thing of Yahweh. This is where Yahweh communes with the children of Israel. This zeal for Yahweh is making him want to have this in its rightful place. Go ahead.
And they set the ark of Elohim upon a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Abinadab that was in Geba. And Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drave the new cart.
Right, the new cart. They set the ark of Elohim upon a new cart, because the other people did it. So now, monkey see, monkey do. But we got good intentions. Go ahead.
And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was at Geba, accompanying the ark of Elohim, and Ahiah went before the ark. And David and all the house of Israel played before Yahweh on all manner of instruments made of fir wood, even on harps, and on psalteries, and on timbrels, and on cornets, and on cymbals. And when they came to Nashon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of Elohim, and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Uzzah.
Right. Now, Uzzah wasn't some stranger from another nation. This was Israelite. But the rules were simple and plain. You don't touch Yahweh's seat. The cart shook. He thought it was going to fall. He put forth his hand to keep it from falling. Didn't have no ill will in his heart. Don't matter. There was instructions. Go ahead.
And Elohim smote him there for his error, and there he died by the ark of Elohim. And David was displeased, because Yahweh had made a breach upon Uzzah, and he called the name of that place Perez Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of Yahweh that day, and said, how shall the ark of Yahweh come to me?
Right. So, watching this man die, of course he was afraid at this point. So, at this point, he had no idea how he's supposed to get this thing here. And fear is even pushing that even further. But when you have the zeal for Yahweh's house, you go and you sit down and try to figure out, well, what I did wrong. See, without zeal, people don't go back and do that. They just say, I ain't messing with that no more. I'm out. Go ahead.
So David would not remove the ark of Yahweh unto him into the city of David. But David carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. And the ark of Yahweh continued in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months. And Yahweh blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. And it was told King David, saying, Yahweh has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that pertaineth unto him, because of the ark of Elohim. So David went and brought up the ark of Elohim from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness.
Now you have to look at the confusion of that. This is a man after Yahweh's own heart. He tried to bring it and somebody get killed. He drop it off at somebody else's place and all that place get blessed the whole time it's there. Well, wait a minute. Well, why one of my folk got killed then? Go ahead.
And it was so that when they that bear the ark of Yahweh had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings. And David danced before Yahweh with all his might. And David was girded with a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of Yahweh with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet.
Right. And David danced before Yahweh with all his might, and David was girded with the linen ephod. You find that when he did set forth this thing, and you have to go and read that in some other places, that he set forth those Levites who it was who was supposed to carry that in the first place. He found out his error. See, the zeal of Yahweh's house caused him to repair that thing that he had done wrong and move forward. But without any zeal, you're not going to back up to try to fix anything. And then you have to consider this thing. And David danced before, in verse 14, and David danced before Yahweh with all his might. And David was girded with a linen ephod. Let's go to Exodus chapter 28. See, it's one thing that, yeah, he went and got the Levites, the ones who were designated to carry that. But then he went a little bit, a step further, even in his own preparation of himself. Exodus 28, and let's read verses 1 through 4.
And take you unto you Aaron your brother, and his sons with him from among the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, Aaron's sons. And you shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother, for glory and for beauty.
So these holy garments are for glory and for beauty. Go ahead.
And you shall speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And these are the garments which they shall make.
These are the garments which they shall make. These are for the priest. These are for glory and for beauty. Go ahead.
A breastplate and an ephod.
Now, ephod, this brother was then clothed with the ephod when he is then going to lead the way to go and bring the ark back. So he's not just covering it and doing the thing with having the Levites go in order. He's even putting part of that on himself. And he's not a priest. Go ahead.
And a robe.
And a robe. Now see, some people don't like robes. That's what I hear. Cause they done seen some Christians or somebody with a robe. Now they don't like the robe. But this for glory and for beauty. That's what Yahweh said. Go ahead.
And a broidered coat, a mitre, and a girdle. And they shall make holy garments.
These are holy garments. I don't care if somebody else put on holy garments and they do unholy things with them. They don't change the garments. The garments ain't, now they unholy because unholy people done put them on and did whatever they wanted to do with them. So if a dude rob a bank with the holy garments on, and we gonna stop wearing holy garments? No. He just did some evil with this stuff. Yahweh said that this stuff is beautiful unto him. So when we dress a certain way and we walk in culture, Yahweh says, my children are beautiful. So if we clothe ourselves a certain way, there's certain things that just ain't supposed to be seen. Shouldn't be no man of Elohim walking around with some skinny jeans on. It's just certain things, it just ain't right. It should be utterly impossible for me to see a sister's belly meat. Go ahead, bro.
And they shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother and his sons, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office.
Right, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. So there's a certain way he's supposed to come even to do this work. There's a certain way he's supposed to look to even do this work. We read in the New Testament, it says he went out and invited all these people unto the wedding feast. And then the Messiah said, who is this that came in here without a wedding garment? Cast him out. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What make you think you can come in all kind of way? And the zeal of Yahweh's house should have some people stop some folk at the door. Hey, you can't come in here like that. Don't come in here like that. Turn around. Shouldn't have to get to me. I'm in the back. 3-4 people should have seen them before I got to them. You got something, bro?
Yeah, I was just going to touch back on Nehemiah. You know, Nehemiah wasn't even in the priesthood. That wasn't his temple that he was in as far as him being a part of the priesthood. But he's a part of that body, Yahweh's body. So he took care of the business. No, this shouldn't be happening in this house. So we all a part of the body. Got to help take care of the body. At least the infection spread.
Exactly. You just got exactly where I was going. You ever seen somebody cut their foot and say, oh my goodness, look at my, I ain't going to even look at it. I just cut my foot. I'm glad it wasn't my hand. So you ain't gonna do nothing about this flesh? You just gonna let that bleed? You gotta have some kind of zeal for your own body. So what about the zeal for Yahweh's body? That's all that we're gonna do for tonight. Enjoy your new moon. Shalom.
Shalom.